Hello, friends. Michael Butler. Welcome back to the Author Spotlight. Have you ever been in a job and you knew you could perform better? You knew you were capable of so much more, but for some reason you lacked confidence and you just needed somebody to come in there and give you a dose, a boost of self-confidence. I was trained to say these words on my way to the sales field, to look in the rearview mirror and say, I like you. I like myself. And by the time I would get to the sales field, I would be saying, I love myself. And by the time I went to that first door and knock on the door for door-to-door sales, I was filled with so much confidence and energy. Well, our next guest is like that. His name is Daniel, and he's the confidence coach. He's in San Antonio. He's no stranger to the Beyond Publishing family or to the Author Spotlight. So please help me welcome back to the Author Spotlight from San Antonio, Texas, Daniel Gomez. How you doing? Confidence architect.
Oh, baby. What's going on, Michael D. Butler? I'm super excited to be here, man. You know, there's so many great things going on in life. And the reason is because there's so many opportunities around them. We just fail to seize them, especially in our sales opportunities. We complain that there's no business. We complain there's nothing going on. But the reality is, look at this. There's a beautiful big city behind me, and it's waiting for somebody to come take over it. And man, I'm ready to train some people, edify some people, teach some people, and boom, baby, let's get this going.
I wanted everybody to see, you know, in the green room behind the scenes, we're about to go live and you're down in an energy drink or something. So that was cool. That was one of those behind the scenes things. You've been blowing up. You've done the book. You've done Sticker Shock. And you know what? This book's helping a lot of people all over the world the day you realize you're worth millions. And, you know, there's so many things I want to talk about today. You've got an event coming up in San Antonio for speakers. You're a quality family time guy. It's hard to get you in on an interview Sunday because Sundays and Saturdays are sacred for you. You spent so many years in the car business, turning car dealerships around. But what do you want to share with our audience today? We've got people watching from all over who are maybe bummed out because of this pandemic. So just share your heart, Daniel, and then we'll take some questions.
Well, my heart is this. My heart is that in my book, Sticker Shock, we have so many challenges with the COVID and everything going on. And it's finally out. It's finally out. The official launch is tomorrow. And this is really going to help sales professionals all around the world. All around the world is going to help you because it doesn't matter what industry you're in. The day you realize, it's called Sticker Shock, the day you realize you're worth millions, the day you realize you're worth millions, the day you raise your self-worth, when you raise your self-worth, you raise your income. Because this is what happens, Michael D. Butler, is when you raise your self-worth, you raise your income because you raise your level of thinking. And your level of thinking is never going to be raised higher than your self-worth. Let me say that again. Your level of thinking is never going to be raised higher than your self-worth. So if you don't raise your level of thinking, your self-worth isn't going to go up and your income's not going to go up, which means whether you sell houses, whether you sell real estate, whether you sell cars, whether you sell windows, whether you sell Kirby's, whatever you sell, it's not going to be sold because your self-worth is too low. Because this is a true fact. Because you're going to get some success. And if you don't have that self-worth, you're going to start to sabotage yourself. And the way you're going to sabotage yourself is, why do salespeople, we know we got to make phone calls. Why don't we make phone calls? Because we have a low self-esteem, a low self-worth, and we have the fear of rejection. We have the fear of getting hung up. There's so many things going on, but the main thing is this: is chapter 1 is about self-worth. It's called Sticker Shock, because there's so many things that we have this amazement that we think, wow, this jet is $10 million. Wow, this condo is $1 million. Wow, this luxury car is $100,000. But the real word, the real sticker shock in life comes, Michael, when people say, you know, I have as much bells and whistles as this car does. I have all the talents that this car does. I have everything inside of me, and I never realized it. And powerful. The day you realize you're worth millions is the day everything changes, Michael.
You know, that's really powerful here. And you go right into the heart and soul of what's going through every salesperson's head, because some people kind of look at sales as a demotion. They're like, well, I got fired or demoted from my corporate job. I lost it because of COVID. And now they're taking a commission sales job. And you talk about being a sales professional. I always valued the sales industry because I knew what it did for people. Ronald Reagan said nothing happens until the sale is made, because until you can make a sale, salespeople are responsible for all the industry that you see around you. You've got to sell something before manufacturers can produce it. Before you get financing for it, you got to go sell the idea. So your book does that because you get deep into the heart and soul. And, that come to Jesus moment where every salesperson just kind of, they want to quit. They want to, maybe they got a lot of no's, and they're really looking in the mirror and saying, am I really cut out for this or not? And you're that guy. You're that guy that dealerships bring in now to turn around, like you turned around the dealerships that you've worked in or been general manager in the past. What are some of the tools here? I mean, you talk about checking the ego. You talk about how to become a closing machine. You talk about dressing for success. You talk about motivation for millennials. There's a lot of practical tools in the book. But what do you say right now? Somebody maybe is just trying to feed their family in the crisis.
Well, I would say this: my favorite story is in the chapter in the book is the power of the human touch, and it says, "Don't forget the human touch in a society that is so high touch in tech and technology. Mm-hmm. We can't live without our phones. And now you think about everything with Zoom now, right? Zoom took over the world. All of a sudden, their stock boom skyrocketed because it's just technology." Well, the biggest thing that happens when you have too much technology is you have a high tech and you have a low tech in the human world. And human beings were meant to be affectionate. Human beings were meant to touch each other, help each other, create each other. Human beings were meant to just like a verbal confirmation or verbal affirmation. And what I love about the chapter in the human touch is when you realize how powerful the human touch. Think about this, Michael, it's a true fact. Is if you have a premature baby that is born and you have two babies in the nursery at the hospital, and one of those infants, one of those premature babies does not have the human touch, of a nurse doesn't pay as much attention, that baby, the fact is this, ladies and gentlemen, is that baby going to pass away. But the babies that have the human touch, those babies' chances of living and surviving being premature goes up dramatically, Michael.
Well, I love it that you talk about that in the book, because now more than ever, particularly during these COVID times, people are being quarantined in their homes. We're just now starting to get out. But depending on where you're watching this in the world, you might be, some countries like South Africa are talking about staying indoors till October. Science says we need 14 hugs a day, but I found the best way to receive love is to give love. And you do that in your book. You talk about picking up the phone, prospecting, following up with people, asking for referrals. I do want you to talk about, and now might be the time, you've got an event coming up, training speakers on stage. You've been a professional speaker for a long time. You get paid to speak. You host your own events. And actually in July in San Antonio, you've got people coming from all over the country, probably all over the world, and you're putting a lot of practical tools in their hands and really showing them a blueprint that you use to get booked to speak. You want to talk a little bit about the event?
Yeah, for sure. And it goes back to yourself. Like this, I want to walk into this, is that last night me and my wife, we had an amazing dinner last night, and it was amazing. And the waiter, he was new, you could tell, because it just opened up and the restaurant didn't have a lot of its wait staff that it had because of what's going on with coronavirus. And he was a very young gentleman, professional. And I asked him a question because I knew the restaurant. There's 3 of those restaurants in San Antonio, and he didn't know the answer. And I said, okay. I said, well, this is what I want to eat. He goes, well, we don't have that, sir. I said, well, you do. And I say that because he wasn't aware of the items that he was selling. So the reason I say that is because the other waitress came and said, oh yeah, we have that plate. So after dinner, I told him, hey man, I said, can I give you a word of advice? He's like, what? I said, you need to study your product, study what your offer as food. He goes, well, I did. He goes, but I stopped. And I said, you stopped? He goes, yes. And how many speakers start and then they stop because either A, they get frustrated and they don't believe in themselves, and B, how many of them don't take time to develop the skill set, the tools that they need to not just to be a speaker, Michael, but to have a speaking business. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you the tools, the mindset to have a speaking business, because I understand business. Believe me, I've ran many businesses. I've been profitable in the millions. And during this Corona season, I've been able to have that creative mindset to shift from speaking. I was just talking about it here this past week because I had 3 live trainings that I did here at an organization, at a dealership. And they said, man, how did you do it? And so because they said, well, I know business. I know that, hey, this thing closed down, but I can do this. And believe it or not, and I say this with humility, that I had my record-breaking month in March when this whole outbreak happened, because I was not scared to take action, and I knew the steps in business to take. And many people don't know the business steps to take in the speaking world, Michael.
Well, it's going to be revolutionary. It's what you're going to be teaching. It's 2 days of jam-packed content. And I know you're providing swipe copy. You've got the actual emails that you use to market to and follow up with event planners globally. I've actually been in the car with you when you've returned calls or received calls from event planners to close deals. But I've also seen you put yourself on stage where they didn't have a budget for a speaker. You offered to come and do a free in-service, and then you made thousands of dollars because of coaching program, of your coaching program. And, a lot of our authors during the pandemic have created, online products out of their books and coaching services that they can provide. Now, what exactly is a confidence architect? What is it you do when somebody hires you to coach? Because I know you fly all over to coach confidence. What does that look like?
Well, a confidence architect does this. I go into a person's life or a business, and I instill the confidence that they need to elevate their lives or businesses to find their true potential. Because the truth is that everybody has another level. We have another level of potential within inside of us. But the thing is, we can't see it because either A, we reach a level of success and then we get complacent and we get comfortable and we stop progressing and we start regressing. And the things that were getting us to where we're going, we stop doing those, and we plateau. And then we have the fear because we don't want to lose the success, the money, the status that we've achieved. And then B, there's people that they lose their confidence, Michael, because they've had one failure, one mistake. And I've been there. I've made some huge mistakes, man. I've made some $100,000 mistakes, and they look at me like, dude, but it's like, okay, well, bounce back. You got to bounce back. And my question is I help people, boom, find their bounce back. Because when you have your bounce back, right, when you're able to bounce back, because you're going to fall. It's not a question if you're going to fall. It's not a question if you're going to fall. The question is, how quick are you going to bounce back? You got to be like that basketball and just bounce back up and go get it. But if you don't have the confidence to do that, and you don't have a strategy to do that, because I'm not just talking about pie in the sky, but if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have a process, if you don't have those procedures in place in $1 million organization, you're going to fail. I just took over. One of my new clients hired me during this pandemic, and she was like, Daniel, I had the best sales day of my life last week or like 2 weeks ago, because I gave her a simple process and procedure to follow. And she was like, wow. And she took action. She said, I made more money in one day than she ever had because of the processes and the sales skills that I implemented into her business. And she was crying because this is it. Because another fellow associate told her, why do you want to hire Daniel? Like, do you think he really can? And she's like, Daniel's my coach. I'm going to hire him. And she said, Daniel, that's the best thing I ever did.
Well, you help people recapture that low-hanging fruit. Without a coach, Tiger Woods, has a coach. Biggest comeback in sports history. The man's got a coach. If he's got multiple coaches, in fact, you have to have coaches because, if you're inside your head, you can't see it. You got to have a 3-dimensional, 30,000-foot view of an expert looking at you and critiquing you and give you feedback. That's what you do for people. And that's what you do for people. I know you knocked out your book in about 60 days, and you were actually a guest on our Write Your Book in 60 Days group that we have. And I know you're coming back on, and just a great group of authors there and speakers. Is writing a book, your first book was Born to Fly, and you did really well with that. And Sticker Shock, as far as the book opening doors for you, what would you say? And we've got a big surprise here that everybody that comes in at the platinum level to San Antonio are going to get to be a part of a book. And what would you say? Has the book opened doors for you? And if so, what way?
Well, tremendously. It just gives you, as a matter of fact, I was at the airport and I was out of business cards and I had 3 books in my briefcase. And the gentleman was like, "Oh, you're an author." I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Look, I don't have any business cards, but I'll give you my, I'll give you my business card, my big business card." And it's just an idea. It was just kind of like an impromptu. And he's like, "Oh, wow, man." And it just happened that the flight was kind of full, so we didn't sit next to each other. Well, he read the book. He got like halfway through the book on the flight back, and he was, after, when we were getting off, he goes, "Man," he goes, "you know, you just changed my life, man." He goes, "Thank you so much." He goes,
Wow.
"You just you." And I didn't think about it. And I said, "Well, it's nice to meet you, sir." Well, the guy called me, and it ended up that book, right? The money that I invested in the book, I made it back because that client I landed, it was like a $5,000 client that I landed. But I say that because so many people are scared to make that investment in a book. So many people are scared to make an investment in a speaking academy. You're not going to make thousands if you can't invest thousands in yourself. It's as simple as that. I have invested well over $40,000, $50,000 in speaking academies where I met you out with Dr. James Dentley in Chicago. We were there and it was an amazing time. And just overall with John Maxwell, just overall in general, just investing in myself because I'm a businessman. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you're going to get a return. And this is the best business card that you can have, because when you give it to someone, and then especially you autograph it with a sincere word or sincere scripture or something that's sincere from your heart, because we all have something special to give, and it just leaves an impression. Because this is the truth. Maya Angelou said it best: people forget what you say, Michael, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Let me say it again. She said, Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And a book, when you give somebody a book, it just opens their eyes to maybe they have a dream. And trust me, we all have more intellectual content in our brains than we realize, because if you would have asked me when I wrote my first book, I would have been like, what do I have to write about?
A $3 book got you a $5,000 coaching client.
Yes.
So you're a business guy. You love to do the ROI. I travel a lot. I do the ROI, and I say, does all this travel pay off? Absolutely. That's why kudos to you having your best month in March. We had a tremendous month in March as well. And, it's because investing in yourself, book is marketing and travel and speaking on stage. As I look, Daniel, our authors with Beyond Publishing, we've published 350 titles. We have over 100 authors now. And our authors that are selling the most books are authors that are on stages and speaking. Now, the pandemic I know you're doing more virtual events. I'm doing more virtual events. Kudos to you. You've launched a podcast. I want you to talk a little bit about that. But, and a lot of our authors are launching podcasts because there's never been a better time to get your story to the world. And the thing is, readership is up globally. And when it comes to establishing credibility, it's the way to get other people to share you. And maybe you think, writing a book's too hard. You can get a ghostwriter. You can get an editor, somebody to help you write the book. And, the thing is, I know you're already working on your 3rd and 4th book. I'm working on my next 3 books. Once you write that first book, it just becomes easier. It's like going to the gym, right? You made your gym in the garage during the pandemic because you do what you've got to do. You make it happen. So talk to me a little bit about kudos on the podcast. And I want to talk a little bit more about Sticker Shock Speaking Academy, but you've launched the podcast, and what's the goal with that? Who are you what type of people are you looking to interview?
Well, as a matter of fact, man, I'm super excited. We finally got the launch date. We got it down. Actually, not this Monday, but next Monday, Memorial Day weekend, right? It's a day of just memorial of memories. Well, we're going to come in here and all those bad memories you have in your life, we're going to come in and we're going to launch that day, Monday, the 25th, I believe it's a date. And it's going to be epic. We got your episode on there. We got the great Tony Watley coming out. We got the great Sean Douglas coming out. We got Melanie Ake, Everyday Leaders. And then we have myself, my episode 0. So we have amazing content coming out. And just I put a lot of effort, I made an investment in myself and in this podcast. Because I didn't, and I say this because I believe when we do something, do it right. Yeah. And I invested a lot of money into my podcast because I want it done right. I didn't want it to be done just recorded. No, it's like we're doing editing, we're doing what's on Libsyn, and it's going to be amazing. But it's really going to talk about 3 things. It's going to talk about right? Your confidence in business and life, finding your consistency, and then finding your conviction. And it goes around this. All that thing's going to help you to be distinctive in business and in life. Because if you're not distinctive, if you don't separate yourself from the masses, you're never going to achieve the success that you were born for. Because the very thing that you're embarrassed about yourself, is the very thing that's going to take you to the destiny that God prepared you for, Michael. And this podcast is going to come in and just shock the world. It's going to elevate people thinking, because when you raise your level of thinking, it raises your income and it raises your whole life, Michael. So the Daniel Gomez Inspired Show is going to bring in business owners, people from whether you're in real estate, publishers, different aspects of business and life, to really elevate people. And the podcast is going to help you build your confidence. It's going to help you build consistency. And together, we're going to discover the key that's going to unlock your confidence in life and in business, Michael.
Well, I met you speaking. You speak all over the country and all over the world. You're speaking in Canada this next year. You're speaking in Asia. I'm inviting you to come speak with me in Portugal as well. And so, and of course, Mexico. So, you've got the Mighty Strong Foundation. You and your wife started the nonprofit. You want to tell us a little bit about that? And then just kind of your ongoing strategy with events. How can people find you, follow you, plug in? Because I know you've got women flying in from all over the world, speaking on your stage. You've got the 10/10 event, the March event. Give us a heads up on where Daniel Gomez is going.
Well, the Mighty Strong Foundation is amazing. My wife is just amazing. She's a breast cancer survivor, like many know. And those that don't know, my wife, Mighty Gomez, had a double mastectomy almost 3 years ago that literally almost took her life. And at that moment, at those crossroads, it was either we give up and we play the victim mentality. And what I love about my wife, I shared this on a podcast. My wife said, "Why not me?" She didn't say, "Why me?" She said, "Why not me?" And I looked at her in the eyes and I said, "Yes, hon, why not us?" And we ran with it. Why not us? What can we learn from this? So when that biggest problem comes out of you, when that biggest problem comes towards you, the question is, what can you learn from it? And we learned from it, Michael. And through that, when the idea of having a nonprofit, I never thought I would have a nonprofit, but we took action, and now we've been able to bless hundreds of women's lives that have breast cancer survivors that can't pay for chemotherapy payments, that can't pay for radiation payments. So if you know a woman out here in the San Antonio area that needs help here in South Texas, we'd love to help you out. We have some funds available to pay for those, because the reality is this, Michael, is when we were going through our journey of radiation, we were spending probably like $400 a week aside from the co-payments, right? That's $400 a week in radiation. And you talk about depending how many weeks. So we spent over $3,000. I think we're averaging like $1,500 a month. That's a lot of money. That's besides your insurance premiums, and women need help. So if you're in San Antonio, we want to help you. And nothing's greater than giving of yourself, because the more seeds you sow to help women, to help people, the universe is going to pay you back 100-fold, Michael. And I truly believe that. And I'm proud of my wife, because she's really, believe it or not, now she's catching up to me in this growth journey that we're in. And now, like this morning, she was coaching me. She's like, "Hey, I listened to you talk about this, and you said not to do that, and you're doing it." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you." But I love it. I love it because it's like when you have a partner that really wants to lift you up. My wife is amazing, and we were just talking about some things today about the nonprofit, and I love her because I said, I don't want to deal with that nonprofit. I said, that's your baby. And now she's coming up to really want to do that. In our women's conference that we're going to have 10/10/20 that you're going to come be a part of here in October, I think it's going to be at a great time, because I really believe that there's going to be a lot of women with the hangover of fear, of hopelessness out of this Corona season, that really are going to need a word of edification, of just power to lift them up. And we have our 10 speakers now. As a matter of fact, one of them is a Beyond Publishing author, Pat. I met her there in Beverly Hills when we were there at the Oscars weekend. So I'm excited to have Pat there. And Pat is just amazing. We have the great Dr. Susan. She's going to be there from, we were out there in Florida with her. So they're just so amazing people that are there, that are going to be there 10/10/20. So it's amazing when you embrace the challenge, when you embrace the problem, miracles happen, Michael. And if we wouldn't embrace the breast cancer, we wouldn't have embraced it, we wouldn't have the Mighty Strong Foundation. We wouldn't have the Women's Conference Fighting Your Inner Beauty here coming up.
Well, you're doing
10,
a lot
10,
of
20.
amazing things. You guys are a power couple. You're touching lives. People are following you on social media, on Instagram, Facebook. You're live almost every day, inspiring people, encouraging people, and really touching lives. And you've inspired me to start a nonprofit. And I know people are following you, can find you on social media and plug into all the dates. You don't want to miss it because, Daniel and Madi throw an amazing event. They do amazing events. Some people do events and they're like, yeah, whatever. But, their events are over the top events. So check it out now because, a lot of people have been shut in for COVID for a long time. They're ready to get out. And so July 25th and 26th, just one final for the Sticker Shock Speaking Academy. You want to get plugged in on that. I know you've only got a few spots left for speakers that are going to be on stage. Get the sizzle reel. Learn how to not just do a hobby of speaking from stage and doing online events. Daniel and I are actually going to show you the practical how-tos, what we've used for years to support ourselves on stage and to do speaking professionally to add to our primary business. So Daniel, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. Thanks for taking time out of your busy Sunday to be with us. And as always, it's great to see you. Kudos on the podcast. Share it with everyone. We know when you're going to launch that. And stick around, guys. I got Deborah Kelly coming on board called Wait a Year. Her book will blow you away as a single mother of 3 from Canada to Cabo. She almost did the unthinkable, but as fate would have it, her motherly intuition saved the life of herself and her 3 children. On the Author Spotlight, where we interview the world's amazing authors. Thank you, Daniel. Have an awesome day.
Thank you, Michael, for having me. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.